It's amazing how one sentence can end a 2-year relationship. I didn't even see it coming until the words were out of her mouth. We were sitting on the couch last night, the TV playing something neither of us was watching. I'd asked a simple question. How was your dinner with Liam? Liam is her ex. She'd been seeing him for closure coffee or catch-up dinners about once a month for the last 6 months. Each time I'd swallowed my discomfort. But this time she'd come home smelling of his specific cologne, the one I'd smelled on her jacket a few weeks back and ignored. I just wanted a straight answer. She looked at me, a little smirk playing on her lips, and then she laughed. She actually laughed. Funny how you get jealous when I see my ex, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Maybe that means you're not boyfriend material. I said nothing. I just sat there, looking at the wall behind her head. The words echoed in the quiet room. She seemed to expect an argument, a plea, some kind of emotional reaction. When she didn't get one, she huffed, stood up, and went to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stayed on the couch. I didn't follow. I didn't yell. I just replayed that sentence in my head. Not boyfriend material. It wasn't an accusation. It was a verdict. And I decided, in that moment, that she was absolutely right. I wasn't material for a boyfriend like her, so I was done. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up, probably expecting me to spend the day stewing and then come crawling back with an apology for my jealousy. I did not. Instead, I went to the storage unit and picked up a dozen large cardboard boxes. I spent the entire day methodically going through the apartment, packing every single thing that belonged to her. Her clothes, her makeup, her books, the little decorative trinkets she'd scattered around the place. I was careful. I wrapped her ceramic mugs in newspaper and put her jewelry in a separate padded box. I didn't throw anything, break anything, or keep anything. By 4 p.m., 12 boxes were neatly taped up and stacked by the front door. The last step was the most important. I'd found Liam's address easily enough from an old Christmas card she'd left in a drawer. I paid for a courier service online. It cost me $227.50 for same-day premium shipping. The confirmation email arrived at 4:15 p.m. with tracking number 881-4B7992C. I printed the receipt and left it on the now empty coffee table. I shipped every single one of her belongings straight to her ex's front door. Then I ordered a pizza and waited. The first call came at 7:03 p.m. It was her. I let it go to voicemail. The message she left was frantic. Where's all my stuff? What did you do? This isn't funny. Call me back right now. 5 more calls followed in rapid succession. I ignored them all. Then came the texts. A flood of them, starting with confusion, then escalating to rage, then devolving into threats. I read them without replying. It felt like watching a storm from behind a thick pane of glass. The real fireworks started the next day. A call from an unknown number. I answered, put it on speaker, and set my phone to record. It wasn't her. It was her mother. I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing, she started. No hello, no preamble. But you can't just throw Rebecca out on the street. She has rights. She lives there. You have to let her back in to get her things. I listened patiently until she was done. Good morning, Karen, I said calmly. All of Rebecca's things have been delivered to her. She should check with Liam. As for her living here, I'd suggest you review the lease agreement for apartment 4B. There was a pause. What does the lease have to do with anything? She snapped. It has everything to do with it, I replied. Rebecca is not, and has never been, on the lease. She was a guest, my guest, and her invitation has been revoked. This was the first major pillar of my plan, and I had built it on a solid foundation. When we moved in together, I was the only one who signed the lease. She'd just started a new job and her credit wasn't great, so we agreed it would be simpler for me to be the sole leaseholder. At the time, it felt like a gesture of support. Now it was my shield. The guest clause, Section 7, subsection C, was crystal clear. Occupancy, by any single guest, is limited to a period not exceeding 14 consecutive days without prior written consent from the landlord. Long-term guests must be formally added to the lease agreement. She had been a guest for 2 years, and I had never asked for that consent. My landlord, Mr. Henderson, was a stickler for rules. He was an old-school, by-the-book property manager who documented everything. Karen sputtered on the other end of the line. That's ridiculous. She paid rent. No, I corrected her. She transferred money to my account every month to help with expenses. All rent and utility payments came exclusively from my bank account, a fact I have receipts for. She has no financial ties to this property. I could hear her breathing, the fury radiating through the phone. You'll be hearing from our lawyer, she said and hung up. I immediately drafted an email. The recipient was Mr. Henderson. The subject line was simple: guest departure notification, apt 4B. In the body, I wrote, Dear Mr. Henderson, this is to inform you that my long-term guest, Rebecca Martin, has permanently vacated the premises as of yesterday, September 10th. Per our lease agreement, I remain the sole occupant of the apartment. Please let me know if you require any further documentation. Best, my name. I hit send at 11:32 a.m. The response came less than an hour later. Thank you for the notification. Your file has been updated accordingly. H. I screenshotted that email exchange. It was another piece of evidence for my collection. For a couple of days, it was quiet. Eerily so. I started to think maybe they'd given up, that the threat of lawyers was just a bluff. I should have known better. The next phase of the attack came from a different direction. Our social circle. We had a core group of mutual friends, primarily two other couples, Mark and Sarah, and Ben and Emily. We'd all been friends for years. On Thursday night, I got a text from Sarah. Hey, can I call you? Something's come up. I agreed. She sounded hesitant. Look, she began, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but Rebecca has been posting some really nasty stuff in our group chat. She's telling everyone you had a psychotic break, that you screamed at her and threw her out with nothing but the clothes on her back because you're a jealous, controlling monster. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. It wasn't enough to get rid of me. She had to destroy my reputation too. Sarah, do you believe her? I asked. There was a pause. Honestly, it doesn't sound like you, but she's being very convincing. She's saying you were tracking her phone and that you threatened her. This was the smear campaign. I had expected it, but hearing the specifics made it real. Could you send me screenshots of what she's saying? I asked. Sarah hesitated for a second, then agreed. A minute later, my phone buzzed. There were 5 screenshots from their WhatsApp group, the gang. I read through them. It was a masterclass in manipulation. Rebecca's texts were filled with tear-eyed emojis and dramatic pronouncements. I'm just so scared. He was like a different person. He screamed at me for hours. I was terrified. He probably burned all my things. All my family photos are gone forever. Ben and Emily were eating it up, sending messages of support. Mark was quieter, mostly just reacting with emojis. The most damning lie was the one about the screaming. My entire response was predicated on the fact that I had said nothing. I knew a denial wouldn't work. It would just be my word against her dramatic performance. I needed irrefutable proof. I spent the next hour crafting my response. It wasn't for the group chat. It was a single, targeted message to Mark and Sarah. I trusted them to be the most rational of the group. I wrote, Hey guys, I'm not going to engage in a public argument, but I do want you, our closest friends, to know the truth. I'm attaching 3 things. 1. A screenshot of a text from Rebecca last month where she admitted to lying about who she was with, saying she was with Sarah when she was actually with Liam. 2. A screenshot of the courier receipt showing I paid over $200 to have all 12 boxes of her belongings safely and professionally delivered to Liam's front door. 3. The final text she sent me before I decided to end things. The third attachment was the key. I had saved it. After one of her previous closure coffees with Liam, I had texted her, Hope you had a good time. Feeling a bit weird about it all? Can we talk later? Her reply had been dismissive. Stop being so insecure. It's not attractive. We're just friends. If you can't handle it, that's your problem. I put that text right next to a screenshot of her group chat message, where she claimed I was a controlling psycho. The contrast was stark. I ended my message to Mark and Sarah with one sentence. I never screamed, I never threatened her, and I never threw her things away. I just took her at her word that I wasn't boyfriend material, and I sent her and her belongings to the person she clearly preferred to spend her time with. I sent the message and turned my phone off for the night. The next morning, I had a reply from Mark. Wow. Just wow. We had no idea. Sarah and I are so sorry we even questioned you. This is insane. We're staying out of it, but just know we support you. Emily and Ben never reached out. The friend group was fractured, just like that. Rebecca had overplayed her hand, assuming I would just sit back and take the abuse. She didn't realize I was documenting everything. The consequence of her smear campaign was that she lost the only friends who might have taken her side without question. She had isolated herself with her own lies. A week passed. The apartment was clean, quiet, and finally felt like my own space again. I rearranged the furniture, bought a new rug, and got rid of the lavender-scented candles she loved that I had always hated. It was peaceful. I started to believe the drama was finally over. Then came the third escalation, and this one was the most audacious of them all. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home when a number I didn't recognize buzzed my phone. It was Karen, her mom again. This time her tone wasn't angry. It was dripping with false sweetness. "Hello," she said, her voice syrupy. "Listen, I know things have been tense, but we have a real problem. Rebecca has realized that in the rush of everything, a very important family heirloom was left behind. It's her great-grandmother's pearl necklace. It's been in our family for generations. It's absolutely priceless, both sentimentally and financially." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "She is absolutely devastated," Karen continued, her voice cracking with fake emotion. "She thinks it might have fallen behind the dresser in the bedroom. We wouldn't bother you, but it's just so important. Could we please arrange a time for her to come by with me, of course, just for 5 minutes, to look for it?" My blood ran cold. This was a Trojan horse. There was no necklace. This was a calculated attempt to regain access to the apartment. Once inside, she could refuse to leave, claim tenancy, and start a whole new nightmare of legal battles. They were trying to trick me, using sentimentality as a weapon. I knew I couldn't just say no. That would make me look unreasonable, like I was the one being cruel. I had to prove they were lying. "That does sound serious," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Let me check. I have a security camera in the living room, pointed at the front door. I installed it a few months ago after a package got stolen. It records on a loop. Let me review the footage from the day she left. If she wasn't wearing it when she walked out that morning, then it must still be in the apartment somewhere. I'll call you back in an hour." The silence on the other end was deafening. I could practically hear the gears turning in Karen's head as she realized her plan was about to blow up in her face. "Oh," she said, her voice suddenly small. "A camera, I see." "Yes," I said. "For security. I'll check the footage and let you know." I hung up before she could reply. I immediately went to my laptop and pulled up the security feed archive. The camera was a simple Wisecam, nothing fancy, but it recorded clear, time-stamped video. I found the footage from the morning she left, the day I packed her things. Timestamp, 8:12 a.m. The front door opens and Rebecca walks out, dressed for work. She pauses in the doorway to check her bag, and there, clear as day against her black blouse, was the pearl necklace. It wasn't some tiny, insignificant piece of jewelry. It was a statement piece, one she wore to big events. She was wearing it as she walked out of my life for good. I clipped the 15-second video. I zoomed in on the necklace for a moment to make it unmistakable. I attached the video file to a new email. The recipient was Karen. The subject line was short and to the point. "Found it." In the body of the email, I wrote only one sentence. "Good news, the necklace wasn't left behind after all. See attached video from 8:12 a.m. on September 10th. I hit send. There was no reply, not a text, not a call, not another email, nothing. That was the checkmate. I had just proven, with indisputable time-stamped video evidence, that not only was Rebecca lying, but her mother was complicit in the lie. They had tried to run a calculated, manipulative play to violate my home and my boundaries, and they got caught red-handed. The humiliation must have been absolute. There was no way to spin this. There was no way to claim I was the bad guy. I had simply presented the truth, calmly and methodically. The fallout from that final move was total silence from their side. But the story had one last, unexpected chapter. About a month after the necklace incident, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, this is Liam. You don't know me, but you shipped your ex-girlfriend's stuff to my house a while back." My first instinct was to block the number. I was done with all of them. But curiosity got the better of me. I replied with a single question mark. His response came a minute later. Just wanted to say thanks. That was the craziest, most eye-opening thing that's ever happened to me. She showed up at my door that night screaming about you, then tried to move into my spare room. It took me 2 weeks to get her out. She's a lunatic. You dodged a nuclear missile, man. I stared at the text. I hadn't considered Liam's perspective in all of this. He wasn't just the ex, he was the unwilling recipient of my revenge. He was the final piece of collateral damage in Rebecca's campaign of chaos. I typed back, "Sorry you got dragged into that, hope it's all sorted now." His final text was the real closure. All sorted. Blocked her on everything. Realized how much therapy I needed after we broke up the first time. Your little delivery service was like the world's most expensive reminder. Cheers, man. I read his message and felt a sense of finality. It was truly over. The drama was exhausted, the lies exposed, the bridges burned to ash. Her attempts to control me, smear me, and trick me had all failed because I refused to play her emotional games. I relied only on facts, evidence, and the terms of our agreements. I blocked Rebecca's number. I blocked her mother's number. I went into the kitchen and poured myself a whiskey, enjoying the profound and simple quiet of my own home.